Here's Josh. That could be mean, but I'm not gonna. Mark, Terry, what's up? Hyatt, Duncan, Meemaw, Farmer Meemaw, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, did you check your mailbox? Because I put like Friday, I put a couple packages in there. Not Saturday, because it was on hold. But you really didn't get much of. You put your mail on hold, and it's like the only day you didn't have like 12 packages. You had like nothing. So you had like one little package, and that was it. Dustin D, Shakira, Floyd, Windswept, Kitty, Hey Lover, Miana,
Good job.
Kiwi. Listen, I told him about his opportunity. He said he may try to find your child. So I gave him your link. Thank you very much. That is awesome, Meemaw. Thank you, Meemaw. Hey there, Robin and Jason. I'm here to learn tonight again. Hey, sister from another mister. Why you always smile when she says that?
Because I love Amanda. She's awesome. I love every one of these. I mean, there's only 16 people in here right now, but I love each and every one of them in their own way.
Miana says, good job, Jason. Why'd she say that?
Because you said her name right.
I know. But in my mind, she's always going to be Leona. Who else was it that it took forever for me to get their name right? They probably don't even come anymore. Oh, it was Nunda, wasn't it? Wasn't it Nunda?
Bonterre, yeah.
Bonterre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did I used to call her?
Bonnie, Terry.
Oh yeah, Maria. Maria.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one.
Say it.
Lynn.
I would say line.
Line. Lean. It's French. It is today.
Aha! That's the German pronunciation of it. Yep! Oh, look at that!
Yes, but she spelled your name wrong.
That's okay if she spelled my name wrong.
She
That's
spelled your name
okay.
wrong.
It's German. See, because my maiden name is Reedy, and it's spelled R-I-E-D-E. And it was also, that's the German pronunciation is, anyway. So that's why I said line, because E-I is pronounced I in Germany. See, I was a smart one. I actually took German in college when I was pregnant with Blaze. What is his last name?
Blacksmith?
Langfit? Something?
I call him Josh the Blacksmith.
Don't let a second person ever get it correct. See, I so smart.
Okay, Shakira, so where is...
And you got her name right. That's good. Shakira. Ladessa got that one for us, though, because I wasn't even sure on that one.
You know how I got her name right? It's the song.
Shakira, Shakira.
Teresa Dean. Oh, look who's here tonight.
Oh,
We
who she
represent
is.
the Lollipop You.
That is
the Lollipop
mean.
You. A lollipop, yeah.
That's mean. Why would you say that?
Because I love her. Because we bought her book today.
Oh, okay.
Look, now let me ask y'all this. Robin said I was being a dork. She called me a big fat dork. Now, she got the fat part right. But Amy's book was in our...
We were
Sam's.
literally headhunting through Sam's looking for it. And Jason's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, I've got to find her book. Everybody keeps saying they're finding it in Sam's Club, and we're here.
And we found it. And then I was like telling everybody, I know who this person
He's like,
is.
I know her. Look.
I know
And
her.
he's pulling out his Facebook on his phone. He's like,
Like,
see?
bam!
I'm friends with her.
Friends. So,
She's my homie.
you know, she ain't but like that big. I just pick her up, put her in my pocket. And I'm speaking at her conference. And everybody was like, this guy's smoking crack. I mean, I was acting a fool. Suburban, what's up?
Hey, Suburban. She's my friend, and she introduced me to Joel Salatin.
I should have said.
She had to go there.
But I was telling everybody that the lady handing out free samples, the checkout lady, the guy in the bathroom. I don't even care. Suburban is in the house. I was telling everybody, like, see? When I introduced myself to him and I would tell him who I was and tell him how I'm doing Amy, I said, now you're only 2 degrees from her. Said,
Yeah, instead of 7 degrees from.
I said, how's that make you feel? And they were kind of like, I was like, get out of my face. You don't even know what you're missing. You don't even know what's going on. And I was like, hey, cupcake. Amanda's garden. So, are you ready to start and
No.
kick me out of the chair? Okay. So, I'm supposed to just run my pie hole until...
We got stuck in Anderson doing a whole lot of shopping, and I had another article that I wanted to make sure that I covered tonight when we talked about what we're going to talk about tonight. So give me just a second to skim through it.
So, but yeah, we flipped through Amy's book while we were sitting in timeout at Sam's because we got put in timeout because I was harassing everybody about no anymore. And it is super nice. I love all the pictures of Catfish Jr.
Oh yeah, very very cool. Like all the pictures were, and a good portion of the pictures in the book she provided. There's just a few that she didn't put in there. But if you look on the inside cover, you'll see like on the second page, like where all the copyright information is. It's got all the information about pictures and stuff, and you can see.
So, while we're waiting on the unprepared to be ready for her class. That was ugly. Don't you poke my fat. Don't go around poking your fat.
You poke my fat all the time.
Ugh. I knew that was coming.
What?
Are you poking me? Get a room. So, I don't know really what to say. Oh, Carol has a huge announcement coming, what, Monday, you think?
I don't know. She's working like heck to have it.
Have
at
it
the
done
end of
before
my
the end of class. So it might be coming at the end of class. Super cool. Super, super cool. She's been working her butt off. So at the end of class, you'll have to listen to Carol on her times. taste tonight?
We're not really talking about a specific oil.
I'm not talking about a specific oil, so no tasty for me. So that's good for me.
Mhm.
I don't want to taste one. I don't think it's always nasty. I think I'm gonna let my beard get down to like here. And then I'm gonna split it in two and grate it all the way down. What's up, D? Everybody loves the faces I make when you almost kill me.
I know, and I get that, but you know, we've done just about every oil that I have access to. And so I don't know.
I just got done talking to Tommy Alderman. His one's like down here already. Looks like a member of ZZ Top. You look like a member of ZZ Top with a beard that long.
There it is.
Looks like somebody needs to hand Tommy a bass. She got legs. But Tommy's is cool. He's completely salt and peppered. More salt than pepper. But so what have y'all been up to today? Today's been kind of a lazy day for us. We went to, of course, we went to Sam's, and I got my Amy For Real book, and it was free sample day, so I was taking major advantage of that. Got me a fruit roll up. Guess I had to teach my kids how to eat a fruit roll up.
That was pretty funny
Yeah,
because it was those
it was a race.
fruit by the foot or
Yeah, it was
something.
like a foot long of a
Yeah.
fruit roll up. So good. So good. What curriculum are you searching for, Michelle?
What was she looking at?
That's what I just asked.
Oh.
And so we took Carol to get to Michael's to get some stuff for the thing that you don't can think for the later on thing. And what else we did? They thought it was Father's Day this weekend, so I got breakfast.
Yeah, that was my.
I got a whole nother week. And let's see. We saw a guy with another Roddy going into our vet. His Roddy looks so skinny. An 8th grade curriculum. Math, science, history. What you want? They can show you what we use. Come on. Shimon. Oh, and them books right there. Yeah, I made fun of Josh. That was fun. Checking in on Josh. He's like, I'm getting ready to go sing in the choir. I was like, you sing? He was like, yes. Out loud? Yes, jerk. They want you to? Matter of fact, they asked me to. Oh. Is it for the hearing impaired? I'm going now. What did you want before I lose signal? That's what we used, Michelle, was Apologia for science. That's what we used all the way through. Worked great with Blaze. Working good with the girls. Even though we did switch to that online.
The girls seem to be, they're getting more rounded of an education. It's much more, I don't know. What Apologia is she looking, because we might have.
Mix of both college prep and regular. If you want to come over and take a look and see what the ones that we got, if you want to use them, you can borrow them. We'll just charge your rent. I'm just kidding. You can borrow them and bring them back because we're going to keep them just in case we don't like the way that the online one's going. We'll switch back. But you're more than welcome to come on over, take a look. Same way with our history stuff, if you like. Well, fine, don't come over then. All right.
What's she say?
She's like, I have all the apology, thanks. Fine, don't come over. It's okay. Don't hurt my feelings. So tomorrow we've got to pop a top on a beehive. I'm afraid we're going to have to do surgery and try to save the hive. I don't know what's going on with it, but so we'll see. We might pop live tomorrow while we're in them and show you some real quick maintenance, what to do if. I think they had a battle with wax moths and won. But now I just think they're weak, so I think we're going to have to take the one super off and trade out frames and probably feed the piss out of them so that way they can build up their numbers. It needs a computer science for a kid who hates computers. That I can't help with.
No, this is why I told you to wait. But yeah, go ahead. I guess, well, kind of. Let me just read this last little part.
So, could you imagine what would happen to the kids nowadays if they had to go to the card catalog to do any research? People would lose their mind. That was one of the reasons why I always paid for my English paper, or I paid for a research paper. I hated that card catalog, the Dewey Decimal System. I hated it with a passion.
Okay.
Okay. So, you ready, Mama? You want to switch seats?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Okay, y'all. We're gonna switch seats. Quickly, go for it. You were so slow.
No, you're just. Never mind.
Or maybe that by your Indian name.
Okay, so rather than talk about a specific, that gives me vertigo. Well, then turn away, Teresa. He said, I love the librarians. I like the library too.
He's a sick man, because my librarians are always like 90.
No, I don't know about that. Okay, so what I wanted
I'd like it
to
if you were my librarian.
talk about was,
I'd like to check you out.
as I've been working on my book, I've been following a couple of different websites, and they've given me a couple of news feeds. Every once in a while I'll get articles about stuff. And one is Mercola, and that one has a lot of things. They tend to be in line with where I am as far as essential oil use, so I get a lot of news feed from there. I braid my own hair, but it's not braided right now. It's just enough fun.
It's a samurai bun.
But so Mercola is one. I also follow Robert Tisserand a lot. And if I'm butchering his name, I apologize, but that's how I say it.
But I get the third degree.
He does a lot of articles. He actually there's an institute online you can look up that does a lot of essential oil information, use, things like that. And so basically what happened is about the middle of this week, I had an article come across my news feed, and the title was Resistance, Not All Germs Are Created Equal. Well, that is actually a name of a documentary that was produced back in 2014, 2015. I have not seen it, but after reading a lot of the information that I've been reading, I definitely want to take a look at it. What it does is it talks about the problem of antibiotic resistance, how it was first created, and what are the proposed things to be able to turn that around. I don't know how many of y'all are aware, but antibiotic resistance is a huge, huge, huge problem.
What?
Are you seriously going to sit there and read a book? while
I'm
having
sorry,
my
but you
class?
seriously sit there and do your.
But I'm listening to you. You're
I'm
not even
listening.
listening.
Yes, I
No,
am.
you're not.
You were just talking about the documentary and how big of a problem antibiotic resistance is becoming.
So how about you get in on this conversation instead of that? Because this is a big deal.
Okay.
This is something that you can be this is one of the reasons I picked this, is because I knew you would be active in this conversation.
You threatened to castrate me if I
I did
missed
not.
that in your next live stream.
Look, and the show begins. Teach love gets folks in jail now. Alright, so there's definitely this path of antibiotic resistant bacteria that's been happening. We've seen this. There's been a lot of documentaries. Remember the one that we saw about the pigs, where the pig
Yes.
farmer? So
what
there
was
was
that called?
a
Poop River or something like that.
river of waste or something like that. Anyway, so we're seeing that there are people that are dying from antibiotic resistant bacterias. We're seeing people who are actually getting infections in the hospitals while they're in the hospital, and they're contracting
Sepsis.
sepsis, and they're getting antibiotic resistant infections while they're in the hospital that are causing problems as well. That's another one. MRSA is huge. MRSA is a big problem. Also pneumonia, certain types of pneumonia.
If I tack this at this, do I look like a pirate?
No, you look like the prospect guy from Toy Story.
Prospect.
The guy that ends up being bad in the end. The guy that's when they're all in the boxes, the toys in the boxes. He's the
Talking about the
prospect
bear?
guy. No, the old man that ends up.
I must have fell asleep.
Anyway, but doesn't he? He looks like the prospect when you put that little thing up there. So anyway, yeah, VRE is a huge one. MRSA, C. diff, all of those are becoming antibiotic resistant. Even a lot of urinary tract issues, urinary tract infections. There was another one. A lot of STDs are now. Gonorrhea is completely like you can't use antibiotics for it anymore. They have to use something totally different to be able to treat gonorrhea.
So pay attention, Josh.
Oh my God! No.
What?
That is horrible. Why would you say that?
What'd I say?
I'm sorry, Josh. He sometimes does not have a filter. Okay, so
Josh is like my best friend.
what is the problem? Why has this become a problem? Is this something that's happened in the last 5 years, last 10 years? Believe it or not, this has been going on for over 50 years.
Shut up.
I swear to you, I looked it up, and that's what I was reading in this article. This has been a problem, and the thing is that they tried to recognize the issue and started trying to tell people about it, but they tried to, and I don't know if you guys remember, back when Blaze was born, there was this big thing about don't use antibiotics unless you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overuse, like, one of the problems is people would not take their antibiotics all the way out when they were supposed to, and then what would happen is they would save them for a rainy day. Like amoxicillin was the big one. Parents would keep the bottle of amoxicillin in the fridge, and then the next time their kid got an ear infection or they got some issue, they would pull the amoxicillin out and give the amoxicillin to their kids. Well, what happened between 2000 and 2014, there was this huge rise in consumption of antibiotics. It rose like over 65%. And the thing is that as it keeps going, it'll get worse. I my dad can't take antibiotics due to overuse when he was young. He's 71. Yeah, I mean, and then the thing is that, you know, in lower income countries, they don't need prescriptions for whatever. Not necessarily third world. Anyway, they don't need prescriptions for antibiotics the way that we regulate it here. And so what happens is, even in these third world countries, they're overusing it as well. Cellulitis is starting to get that way. Certain pill antibiotics don't work on it, and IV stuff has to be used. There you go.
There's an
Yeah,
antibiotic
and-
for cellulitis?
Yes.
That's the cottage cheese that Big Girl
No, that's. Oh my god.
Isn't that what it's called?
No.
And you're trying to roll it out with a roller
Cellulite.
pin.
Stop.
The stuff that makes the back of their leg look like the one side of the moon. That's not cellulitis.
That is cellulite, not cellulitis. Okay. So, this article suggests that if nothing is done, if policies aren't changed, that antibiotic consumption globally will rise up to 200% by 2030. So in the next 12 years, if something's not done about this, there will be such a huge issue with antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that the implications of that are huge, because globally, I mean, Jason and I have been following a lot of global news. We get all kinds of things, notifications about different things that are happening all over the world.
And people are not paying attention either.
No.
Because when we stopped to get a burger today and I sneezed, everybody looked at me like, bless you, and I said, oh, don't worry about it, I got Ebola.
And they don't even pay attention.
And they didn't even pay attention. They just kept right on eating the burger.
That's my husband.
It's okay, I got Ebola.
Anyway, so there's a big, huge issue with antibiotic-resistant bacteria. There's two major issues. One is obviously the overuse of antibiotics, but the other issue is antibiotics being used in our food system. And that's why I wanted you to be paying attention, because you have a lot to offer on this.
Your cows can get the cellulitis.
Cellulitis, yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we gotta get the rolling pin out them too.
Oh, Jason. Anyway, so the other major issue, what we're seeing, is that in the CAFOs, the concentrated animal fudge.
Oh man, do fudge.
Concentrated animal feeding operation. That's it. Yes. So, so what happens is, when they're all concentrated together, they tend to pass disease and bacteria back and forth to each other. They're also up to their stomachs in fecal matter, and so it's a lot easier for them to get infections. So what happens, bacterial infections. So what happens is the CAFOs were administering antibiotics as a reaction to animals getting sick. Well, then they started to realize that the antibiotics, if they gave them to them as a preventative measure, that the animals were growing faster, because the antibiotic didn't have to fight any bacteria, so it was actually making the animals grow faster and getting bigger. It was like a growth, basically like a growth hormone. Now,
It's so they didn't have to say that they can say it's steroid free.
right. So what was happening is we said no more growth hormones, not allowed in the food system. So then they started using antibiotics. Well, then the antibiotics, they came out and said no antibiotics for growth hormone as a substitute for a growth hormone. Can't
Well, what
use it.
happened is the salmonella and E. coli and the Gondosypha herpes simplex 12 mutated,
Hmm.
and it wasn't working anymore. The antibiotics that they were pumping wasn't working anymore, because think about it, that bug or virus or whatever it's called, was living in the body, and so they're automatically giving these antibiotics because they want to make the animals grow. Well, this bug said, "Okay, watch this, homie, hold my beer."
So
And so it mutated and became Super E. coli.
So the science behind it is that when they give the animals the antibiotics, it actually alters their gut microbiome, and that's how it actually promotes the unnatural growth in the animal. So it alters what's going on in their gut. Now, what happens is it's not just, so part of it is that when they're being processed, if they nick the gut at all when they're processing the animal, that can get into the meat. So that's one way. But then the other way is that when they poop and all of their manure gets all over the place,
What you just calling it?
poo.
Dropping the deuce.
So what ends up happening is they're then passing all of that junk in through their poo, okay? Which also becomes an issue because, like, around here, we have chicken farms everywhere. So if the animals, oh, and this is what I was getting back to, with the antibiotics, they're still allowed to give antibiotics as a preventative for infection. They're not allowed to give it as a substitute for a growth hormone. Okay?
Okay.
So what's happening is they're going back to using it and calling it what it is, which is a disease preventative. And what happens is, one, if they have that issue in their gut and it gets nicked and then it gets onto the food, then you're getting it that way. If they're using, see, we're off right now. Okay, we're back on.
You better not be watching anything on the TV or streaming, or your mom is going to come in there like a samurai warrior and cut off heads.
Okay, is everybody back? Let me make sure everybody's back. Okay, alright, we're back. I don't know if it was the internet or if it was OBS. Something clicked off and let us know we were off and then came back on. So what also is happening is it's not just, so the antibiotics, so again, what's happening is the antibiotics are in their gut. If they nick the gut and that gut gets into, that stuff gets into the meat, and all of those beautiful things that the FDA has approved for them to, or the USDA, whatever, has approved for them to be able to clean your meat, then that gets inside the meat, and then you ingest that, and then you're being exposed to an antibiotic, even though you don't need it. Also, their fecal matter is being used as a, their manure is also being used as a fertilizer on crops, and we know that for a fact around here. Because they go around and any of you that live near chicken houses, they will go at the end of the season and they will take a big front loader and they take all of that poo out, and then the next day you'll smell it on somebody's pasture. It's being laid out and tilled into the ground because they put a lot of shavings and stuff in there. It's not just, so it's being composted as it goes. But they're taking that and throwing it all over these pastures and using them for fertilizer. So then what ends up happening is you're being exposed again. If you're eating commercially grown corn, soy, whatever, you're getting it through the fertilizer on the crops. And so one thing that I was reading is that most vegetables grown in soil fertilized with manure will uptake antibiotics into the leaves, the plant tissues, the tubers, and the greater amount of antibiotics that are in the manure, the higher the levels are detected in the plant tissues. So that's that's another reason why we're seeing such antibiotic resistant bacteria happening, because we're taking the antibiotics and then the bugs are just, they're finding a new way to mutate to get around that.
Yeah, it's not that they're finding a new way to mutate. It's the story of survival.
Mm-hmm.
They're improvising, adapting, and overcoming.
Right.
Now, can you tell me how is it even capable that the plant, they're finding traces of the antibiotics and stuff in the plants? Can you? Can you? Can you?
What do you mean?
What do you mean what I mean? How is it possible?
I'm confused.
There's a surprise.
How is it not possible? I mean, they pull it up through the roots.
Keep going.
Well, I mean, the fertilizer's going down into and composting into the ground, and then the plant is using that as its food
But
and pulling it up through the roots and feeding it through the entire
right,
plant.
but the bigger thing is that they are pumping these animals so full
right.
of antibiotics that their body's not using it up.
Oh, yeah.
So
and
it's like when you give a baby a raisin. In a raisin,
right.
out a raisin. And when, like, if you take too much, magnesium,
Yeah.
what happens?
It just comes
What happens to
right
your,
out, right? Or your poop.
what happens to your poop?
I don't know. I don't take magnesium. You do.
I think it gets harder to poop
I don't know.
because it'll clog you up. Yeah. But your poo will be high in magnesium because your body is only saturated as much as it has sucked up as much as it can take, so it needs to get rid of it. It goes from being a needed thing to becoming a waste product.
Right.
So it gets thrown out through their waste facilities, through their urine, through their poo. You know, considering chickens don't pee, so it comes out through the pooper. Now, it will then sit in the poop, but it's got to go somewhere because it's synthetic, man-made. It's not biodegradable.
Right. So it's going to stay there.
So it's going to
Right.
stay there. So then what happens? They till it into the ground. The plants start pulling stuff from their party that they need, and the antibiotic comes with it. So that's how it gets in the plant, in the fruit, and everything.
Well, and now here's another one. And this is what's crazy. That was actually my tea. It was brought out for me. So there's a third factor that I don't think. So a lot of people know about the gut issue and the food and all that stuff. But here's the third one, and this might surprise some of you. There are two.
Somebody bring me some tea. Mommy stole mine.
There are two antibiotics, oxytetracycline and streptomycin. They are also used, get this, as pesticides in agriculture. So not only, it's no wonder we're having this problem is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, do you know that our DNA has been altered because of chemicals, antibiotics, and GMOs?
I believe it. I would believe it.
The main structure of the human DNA has been altered because of it.
Yeah, to me, it just totally blew my mind that not only are we doing it through our food source as far as meat consumption goes, but now we're seeing it in the fertilizer and the pesticides.
This is the reason why you have E. coli and salmonella outbreaks in vegetables.
In spinach. Yeah, I mean...
I mean, granted, also another main point of it is that the people that they are having harvest are not treated fairly, and if they're lucky, they may get a porta john out there to go to the bathroom. But if they don't, they're just dropping trowel and dropping deuces right there in the pasture, so, or in the garden, or what do you want, in the field. And that's another reason why that you're getting these things. This is why it is so much easier and so much safer and so much healthier and so much better to start on your path to sustainable living, to self-sufficiency.
Warfarin's a blood thinner, and in higher doses is found in commercial grade. Yeah. So, okay, so then...
what do we do, Mama?
Well, I'm not quite there yet. I still want to harp on this a little bit.
Oh, boy.
So, one thing that you can do, obviously, is to grow your own food. They've done testing of beef and pork that have been raised in a CAFO situation, and then they've tested grass-fed animals, their meat, and obviously there's a much different spectrum of not only bacteria in general, but disease or antibiotic resistant bacteria. I mean, they see it so much more in the
Blueberries and the animals. Can I go check that?
We're gonna wait for that for just a second. So
Take your radio. Let me know when you're back.
what they did is they looked at ground beef samples, and they looked at CAFO, and then they looked at grass-fed, and they saw that, and this was back in 2015, they found that the CAFO samples were 3 times more likely to be contaminated with multi-drug resistant bacteria. 3 times more than grass-fed beef that were raised without antibiotics. Grass-fed beef very rarely had E. coli or staph.
Well, it's
Where
proven,
CAFO meat, obviously,
it's a proven
a lot
fact.
more.
If you take a cow or a steer that's been in a CAFO,
Alpha, it looks like it's gonna rain.
Roger that, and you put him on grass, on a pasture, like if we would go to a CAFO and say, I want that one, and bring him home, in 2 weeks, you will kill over 50% of the E. coli that's in his gut. Now, he will lose a lot of weight. He will drop a couple, I think I read it was like a couple 100 pounds. And then he'll slowly put
They'll
it back
gain
on.
it back, yeah.
But initially, he will drop in weight.
Yeah. And it's, you'll see some, and here's the other thing that kills me, is what they're trying to do to get around that is they'll call them grain finished or grass finished. And so you'll see like they're grass finished, and I don't even know that there's really a specification of how long that has to be for them to claim it, because they don't really have any
They can stick
kind
him
of
out there
rules.
for a day.
Yeah, they could just put them out there for 2 or 3 days, and really you're not, I mean,
They won't keep him out there long.
right, because
of the
they'll
fact
lose
that
the
they're
weight.
going to lose so much weight, because
Right.
they're going to drop that weight fast.
Right.
Because a cow is not meant to eat only corn.
Their
He's not-
stomach's not meant to do, I mean,
No, he needs roughage.
right,
He's an herbivore.
right.
He can eat a little bit of corn,
But he's
you know what?
mostly eating the stalk of the
Yeah,
corn.
he's mostly eating the stalk.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that we do. Is when we harvest our corn, the stalks are still green. We're pulling the stalks out of the ground and giving them to the cows.
That's what they call silage.
Yeah.
When you start cutting that up and
Yeah.
cautious about organic. Okay, so here's another thing that they're seeing a problem with in the hospitals. Do you remember back when there was this big, huge thing to use antibacterial gel to wipe your hands, to clean your hands? Well, if you couldn't wash your hands, get your antibacterial gel and clean your hands with that. That's a problem. Triclosan, that used to be the big thing for antibacterial soaps and things like that, that was a problem too, because that was causing people to build up a tolerance and a resistance to those as well. So the best recommendation is to take the time and wash your hands. Just wash them. Don't, put the antibacterial gel on there and do that. Use just hot water and soap. But what was happening is in the hospitals, they had all of this antibacterial soap all over the hospitals for everybody to wash their hands. And even the doctors, when they're doing surgeries and things like that. And what's happening? All of the bacteria are becoming resistant to that antibacterial soap. Over time, because it's so overused, they just learn to adapt and become resistant to it. And there's so many people that have gotten sick, and I've got to look for the I got to look and see. When we get to all of this, I'll find the numbers. The numbers just overwhelmed me. One statistic I did want to tell y'all, in the U.S. alone, antibiotic-resistant pathogens are conservatively estimated to cause at least 2 million infections a year. And that leads to over 23,000 deaths each year. Just antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
What do we do?
So one of the things that you can do is, one, prevent infection to begin with. That's one thing. And you can do that by trying to avoid sugars, processed foods, grains, stress reduction. That's a big one here. When you're reducing your stress level, you're less likely to fall victim to a bacterial infection. What? Because your body's able to fight it off quicker.
So you're saying that I can grow an infection because I drink sweet tea?
No, all of those things will inhibit your immune system. And if your immune system's not able to fight off that bacteria or fight off an infection before you get super sick, then all of these things will cause that to be a problem. Not having enough sleep, we talked about this before, vitamin D deficiency, all of that stuff, those things can lower your immune system. And so if you can focus on those things, that's one way to prevent the infection to begin with.
Right, but I'm an American. I understand that things, I do it, but that just takes, I don't want to do that. I want something that I can start to feel sick, I can do, and it makes the sickness stop. What you got?
Right. I'm getting there.
No.
Another thing you can do is, obviously, and we've already harped on this, limit your use of antibiotics. Realize that a viral infection cannot be fixed with an antibiotic.
Why not?
They don't, because a virus is different than a bacterial infection. A virus is not.
But this is America.
Well, and that's the problem. That's what we're dealing with. A lot of ear infections, people will use antibiotics in a heartbeat for an ear infection, and you don't necessarily need an antibiotic for an ear infection. And that's the thing, is like at a drop of a dime, people are using amoxicillin, all these different things to be able, to do that. Now, Mama says everyone has to spend 20 minutes a day for their body to make vitamin D in the sun. So,
again, I got an ear infection. America.
I'm not there yet. Stop jumping the gun.
Hey, I'm American. I don't care about the rest of this stuff. I don't care.
Okay, so
I understand what you're saying.
Another thing you can do is, like we said, avoid foods that have been exposed to antibiotics. So try to get grass-fed meals. All of your fruits and vegetables, you want to try and avoid anything that has been exposed to a fertilizer that could have been a mass fertilizer.
But how am I going to know that?
Well, I mean,
if I go in Walmart and I want some
more than
chicken,
likely you're going to get it.
I want some chicken
Now,
because it's 4th of July and I'm America and I want to barbecue some chicken ribs and burgers because America.
Get it from Tyson.
What do I do? Do I look at the lady at the Walmart and go, hey, was this chicken here given antibiotics? How are we supposed to know?
They don't label it very well. That's the problem.
Shut my mouth. How can we fix that?
Vote with your dollar.
How am I supposed to know which one to buy then?
You better eat plenty of garlic and honey to stop infections. Yeah. Teresa, I heard if you pee on your foot, it gets rid of athlete's foot. Okay, so limit your use of antibiotics. Avoid antibiotics in your food. Also, avoid antibacterial household products such as antibacterial soaps, hand sanitizers, wipes. All of those will promote antibiotic resistance by allowing the strongest bacteria to survive, and they'll thrive in your home. Go ahead.
Okay, America, every soap that I go to in the Walmarts.
Yeah, they all say.
I'm asking you a question. Here in America, I go into Wally World because I go to Wally World every day.
No, you don't.
America
does. Yeah.
Every soap has anti-something on it.
Right.
Antifungal, antibacteria, antivirus,
Right.
anti-America.
Yes.
So, what are you saying?
So, Terry's getting there. We're gonna get to it in just a second. I'm telling you what to not do, and then I'm gonna tell you what to do. Okay?
Well, you got me in America over here freaking the hell out. I
Okay.
can't go buy my chicken from
Now,
my
when
4th of
you're
July
washing,
barbecue.
when you're washing your hands, just wash your hands with warm water and soap. Okay?
But most of the soaps say antibacterial.
No, just regular soap.
What's regular
Be
soap?
mindful of washing your hands, kitchen surfaces. When you're handling raw meat, make sure that you're disinfecting everything or cleaning everything after each.
Well, clean it with
Every time you-
antibacterial.
Well, one of them is like what she said, what Terry said. You can clean with peroxide and vinegar. That's one. The mixture of things that make up soap make it so the bacteria cannot stick to your skin. You don't need antibiotics to wash them away. So that's what happens is it washes the bacteria away. It doesn't keep it on your hands.
But is there anything else that I could use?
Yes, there is. And we're going to get to that. You're so impatient.
That I can buy in the Walmarts?
No, not in the Walmarts.
That we learned about that was back in the day.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
That we now swish around in our mouth.
Oh, we'll get to that. So what he is referring to is the history behind when the discovery of bacteria. When bacteria was discovered, you went through, Pasteur and all of that.
Went through what?
Louis Pasteur. That's where pasteurization comes from. So then,
I thought you just held the milk up here.
no.
So it'd be pasteurized.
No.
Like, look, my tea's pasteurized. See? It's pasteurized. Or you can hold it down here.
No, it's pasteurized.
Right,
No, so the connection between bacteria and infection wasn't made until Pasteur figured it out, and then that led to the use of antibiotics or antiseptics. during surgery, and that was started by Joseph Lister. And so we were talking about this before. Is that Lister is where we get Listerine from, the formula for Listerine. And Listerine, the formula has barely changed at all in over 150 years. Now they used to use it as a surgical antiseptic. They don't use it now, but they used to. They used to use eucalyptus oil and thyme oil as surgical antiseptics back in like the 1880s. And they also used eucalyptus and all of these other stuff. So we're going to get to that in just a second.
So
but
when did pasteurization come around? What was the years?
in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why?
Do you know why it came around?
Why did it come around?
That's a mess.
Tell me. I don't know.
Had to do with moo cows.
Yes, because of the milk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What happened with the milk? What did one bad apple?
I don't know this story. You know this part.
There was, I forget where the dairy was at, but it was a rather large dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to save money. Because times were tough.
Hey, Hermione is going to come get her radio, and then she's going to show her things to
Roger. And so he started feeding his dairy cows the used hops. Which then made the the milk from the cow turn blue.
Huh.
It made the milk from the cow turn blue.
Huh.
So he said, "Well, I can't sell
Blue milk? No, that ain't gonna happen.
Nobody wants blue milk."
Uh-huh.
So he added a chalk to turn it back white.
Oh.
Well, that chalk ended up causing a bacterial
Bacterial
growth.
infection.
And it caused the infection. And so that's why they started cooking the milk to pasteurize it.
Gotcha.
To kill all of the
Bacteria.
But the bad thing was, is not only did they kill the bad bacteria,
Right, it also
they
killed the good bacteria. And that's the other thing that you run into
What?
with when you're doing an antibiotic is you're killing a lot of stuff. It's a mass broad. What do they call them? Broad spectrum
Yeah,
antibiotics.
It's killing everything. Do you know where your immune system starts? Do you?
That sounds like
Do you know?
a weird question. Where?
The battle for your immune system starts in your belly.
In your gut. That's exactly right.
Belly.
Nope, in your gut. Yep.
So, with that being said, when you take an antibiotic, it's killing all the bacteria.
Everything. Yep.
That's why people are having to get poop transplants. And
That's why kombucha has become such a big thing is probiotics.
Yeah,
It's
so
definitely,
that's
instead
why
of
you-
antibiotics, you got probiotics.
that's why you got to eat your fermented foods, your sauerkrauts, your kefir, your
Yogurt,
kombuchas,
uh-huh.
your yogurts.
Yeah.
That introduces the
Good bacteria.
good bacteria. Just like if you drink raw milk, it ain't going to kill you. I don't care what CNN says.
Mhm.
It ain't going to kill you.
As long as your you know your farmer, and your farmer is responsible
That puts the good bacteria
back into
in
your
gut.
system.
Prime example. This homestead, every member of this homestead, since we bought our first dairy cow, with my children, us, Robin and I, have consumed raw milk.
And we notice when we're out of raw milk. When
Yeah.
we're out of raw milk, we tend to get sick.
We'll catch the stomach bug that's going around.
But when we were on raw milk, our kids never got sick.
Never got sick. The only way that we knew our kids their body was fighting anything was because when we would give them a hug at night for them
Yeah,
to
they'd
go to
be
bed,
warm.
they would be hot. They'd be burning
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And they'd be running 100, 101 temperature,
Yep.
but they're still doing 90 to nothing.
And it was just because their body was fighting the bacteria and or the infection, and there was no other signs. There was no throwing up, no nothing like that.
Why? Because they got the good bacteria,
So,
and they got their immune system was off the chain. Okay, wait your turn. And it's basically their bodies are a undefeated heavyweight champ. Now, were there times where they got knocked on their butt? Yeah. Why? Well, to be honest with you, it's probably because we were out of raw milk and we weren't drinking the booch, or we weren't eating sauerkraut, or weren't doing the kefir thing. But, bam, proof's in the pudding. My kids never got, the only immunizations they got is when they left the hospital.
when they were in the hospital, yeah.
That was it. And my kids are healthy.
Now another thing to think about is in your kitchen. Your kitchen is a breeding ground for disease-causing bacteria. I mean, that's just, if you use any meat product that is mass-produced and you buy in the store, there is a good possibility you're going to have some kind of disease-causing bacteria.
Well, here's another prime example with that. If you remember back when we were kids, there was no, if you take the chicken out of the package and you put it on your countertop, make sure you clean the countertop and don't let it sit out there longer than 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, whatever. There wasn't that crap going around.
Nowadays.
But when we started getting older, it went to, okay, if you're going to be cutting your chicken up and stuff like that, don't let it sit out longer than like 5 minutes. And then it went to like 2 minutes, and then it went to some seconds, and now they're just like, put the damn thing in the pan!
Well, and the other thing too is that, Clorox jumped on the bandwagon, and they're like, oh, well, you can leave it out there, just go ahead and, make sure you spray down your countertops with chlorine or Clorox after you're done.
Also, please come out to the pasture. I only have one sheep.
So, kitchens are notorious for breeding grounds for that kind of stuff. Also, avoid cross-contamination because, if you are using a knife to cut your chicken and then you use that same knife to cut up your spinach, you're gonna cross-contaminate. What's wrong, baby girl? Is it not staying on? So so then what they tell you to do is, one, use a designated cutting board for your raw meat and poultry, and don't use it for anything else like cutting up vegetables. Some people, and I know when I was in the food industry, we actually had different color cutting boards. Like the cutting boards themselves were different colors. We had yellow for the meat, and then we had green for all the vegetables, and you didn't use one for the other.
You got everybody?
Yes, over.
And so that's one way
Where's she at?
to do that. You can also sanitize your cutting boards with hot water and detergent. Just wiping it off with rags not going to is not going to clean it off. Another thing you can do, like what Terry was saying, you can use 3% hydrogen peroxide and vinegar, put it in a spray bottle, and then spray it, wipe it off. Another thing you can do is you can use coconut oil, and I thought this was interesting. Coconut oil can also be used to clean, treat, and sanitize wooden cutting boards. So that's one of the things that they recommended in this article, is rather than using plastic, use wood. And what they said is with coconut oil, it's loaded with lauric acid, and that has potent antimicrobial action. So the fats will also help condition the wood. So it's a double use. You can use it. It's going to help with microbes, but also it'll help keep your wood cutting boards good too. Yeah, so like one of the things that I noticed a long time ago when I was a kid, carpaccio was a huge delicacy. And carpaccio is like marinated, almost like a steak. I don't know what cut of meat it is, but you can take it and they saturate it in a marinade, and then they basically sear the outer edge of the meat, and then they cut it very like paper thin. Like when it's on a plate, it sticks to the plate. It's so thin. And carpaccio, and they hardly serve that anymore. And part of the reason is because of the issues with.
Is that really thin sliced stuff that you want me to eat that just like melts in your mouth like one of them Listerine tablets that you put in there when you got bad breath?
Yeah, but it's beef.
Yeah.
The one you're talking about is like prosciutto, but yeah, carpaccio is like.
Costs like $1,000 for like one little strip.
It's not. But I would love to do some carpaccio with our cows, because I think it would be phenomenal. But you have to marinate it and then you sear it, and yeah, so it's almost like meat sushi basically. They barely cut. They cut the outer edge of it, and then or cook the outer edge, and then they slice it paper thin. It's really good. So that's one thing. One thing you missed is they recommend using wood cutting boards as opposed to plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you can use, and this was a surprise to just about everybody in here, tartar. But tartar is with ground beef, I thought. Anyway, so
What about haggis?
what you can do is you could take coconut oil, and coconut oil has lauric acid in it, and that will kill, is antimicrobial. And so you can take that and use it on your cutting boards, and then what also happens is the coconut oil will condition the wood, so it helps preserve the wooden cutting board, but it also helps kill off some of that bacteria as well.
So what you're saying is when I make an end grain cutting board,
Definitely.
I can finish it with a layer of coconut oil.
Well, yeah, and then what you do is just to treat it, you would go ahead and use, usually you could take it and use the coconut oil to kind of condition the wood to keep it preserved. So, okay, so another couple of things, and then we're going to talk about the oils. And then what I'm leading up to is there is some studies to show that there are essential oils that do fight antibacterial or antibiotic resistant bacteria, and we're going to get into why that's why I'm glad this is a longer class, like we can talk about all of this stuff. Let's see. So for the longest time, whenever somebody was sick, the approach was they used one thing to be able to be able to fight off a bacteria. And what has happened over time is because we use the same thing over and over to fight stuff, the bacteria has become resistant to that. But then what also happens is they're using more than one. Now they're trying to use 2 or 3 different things to be able to fight off a bacteria as well. So the problem though is that not only do we have these issues with resistance, but we also have people who have issues where they have an adverse reaction to the drugs. That's another thing. That those reactions are responsible for 106,000 deaths a year annually as well. So another argument for not using all of these antibiotic.
So you're telling me antibiotics kill more people in a year than an AR-15?
An estimated 106,000 deaths, and that's actually, that statistic is 10 years old, so it's possible that it's much higher than that now.
We should give background checks to doctors.
And the other thing is that we've rid ourselves of old diseases, but now new ones have come up. So we have Crohn's disease.
Imagine that.
Inflammatory bowel, so IBS, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, diabetes has become a big deal, multiple sclerosis, schizophrenia, autism. All of these things have become.
Now, I think schizophrenia has been around for a long time.
Yes, but it's becoming more prevalent. There's becoming a lot more of it.
That's because parents don't take their kids to the woodshed anymore. Now you gotta bop those nephrons around.
You and your nephrons.
Get them all firing correctly so they don't develop into Frankenstein.
So another thing, that we're developing resistance also to things like fungi.
Hey, I'm a fun guy.
I've developed a resistance to you. Can you
know.
tell?
Give me my
Arthropods such as lice, ticks, mites, things that used to work a long time ago, now don't work.
I saw a picture on Facebook. I want to say it was Hope that got a tick.
No, that was
Who was it?
it was somebody's husband. It was the male. Was it Tangi's husband maybe? Or no, it was Pratt. Michael Pratt. Mike Pratt had a tick.
You know who that is.
Yes, and it was a huge issue. Hello, Crazy Days. That's Wanda, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Good to see you, Wanda. So, and then the other one, and this is the big one, cancer. Cancer is now to a point where most chemotherapy protocols have more than one drug. It's not just one drug. Frequently, it's 3 or 4 at a time being put in.
And I want to go ahead and add whoever turned in Tim Beverly for his post about cancer.
Oh,
You can
shame
go ahead-
on you.
You can go ahead and remove yourself from my
Shame
plans
on
list, too.
you. Yeah. That was
That was
a
not
little
cool.
uncalled for.
And he
Yeah.
got put in Facebook timeout. And you know
yeah.
what? I agree with him. F cancer.
Yeah.
You know why? Because cancer can be cured. You know,
There's no money in a cure.
but
though.
there's no money in a cure.
Yeah.
And I
There's
think
no
they've
money
proved-
in people being healthy.
And they've proven that they can cure cancer. Proven it. How? With nutrition. With eating properly raised food. And some coffee animals.
So, in 2014, there was a report that globally 700,000 people die from antibiotic-resistant infections every year.
Again, more than an AR-15.
Most of them, and here's the kicker, most of them acquired in the hospital.
What? But that's where you were supposed to go to get well. not
Resistance
sick.
to almost all antibiotics is escalating, and there's no new antibiotic drugs being developed.
Way to go.
So-
Obamacare.
Back in the 80s,
Ooh, that's Reagan.
there was, I'm sorry, yeah, in the 80s, the beginning of the 80s, I have this, and I'll link this article to you. I don't know if you can see. Just look at the graph. This right there is like in the 80s, and this is where we are now. So this is when they were developing so many antibiotics, and now look at how it's drastically dropped. In the top 100 drugs in America, there's not one antibiotic on there now. Top used antibiotics, none of them are.
Now, what does that graph show?
It shows the antibacterial drugs that were approved by the FDA. We started up at like almost 20, and now
in the 80s.
right, and now down to this graph was stopped in 2010 to 2012. We're at, but between 0 and 5, so probably 1 or 2 a year.
Great. Thanks, Obama.
No, that's good. No new antibacterial drugs.
Oh.
So
Way
what's
to go,
happening?
Trump.
Right. So what's happening is over time we're not introducing more. We're stopping it from that level, but
We're neither one of them president on that time.
but what's happening is
I just
that
miss saying that, you know? That was so much fun to say. You know what? I didn't get my sprinkles on my...
Thanks,
I
Obama.
didn't get my sprinkles on my ice cream. Thanks, Obama. I so miss saying that.
Mm.
Remember when he made the skit about the cookies too big for the milk jar?
Yeah.
And he was like,
Thanks,
thanks.
So
Obama.
many nurses wear their scrubs in the hospital, then go out for lunch and go back to work wearing the same shoes and scrubs. How many contaminants did they come into contact with? Exactly.
Word.
And then they go and wash their hands with antibacterial soap, and you know that's supposed to make things all better. So yeah, so in the top 100 drugs sold in the U.S. in 2014, none of them were antibiotics. So that's
Let me guess.
the government's
Viagra?
trying.
And oxycodone.
But see, here's the problem. The government is trying to get around this problem. They're offering financial incentives for new antibiotic development. But so far, no one is interested in doing it. So, you know, and here's the statistic that killed me. Every year in the U.S., 2 million patients contract infections in hospitals. And an estimated 103,000 die as a result of the infection. And over 23,000 die from bacterial infections that are resistant to antibiotic treatment. Isn't that
you
crazy?
got more people dying in a hospital from infections and stuff that they're getting in the hospital
Mhm.
than we have from gun violence.
So this is saying bacteria are now developing resistance to the very substances used in hospital hand hygiene products, mostly chlorhexidine and triclosan is the big one. I don't know if y'all remember back in the day, like when Blaze was little, when you take him to preschool and they wanted you to give it a hand sanitizer, it had triclosan in there. And now you don't find that as much. You know, you still see it occasionally, but it's not nearly as used as it used to be.
Alpha to Dobby.
So all of that
Start making your way back. The wind is picking up.
brings us to essential oils. So we were talking about earlier, bacteria was first observed in like the 1630s, but there wasn't really a connection between bacteria and infection until Pasteur figured it out in the 1860s. And that led to using antiseptics during surgeries because they had people dying on the table when they were doing surgeries. So Lister came up with Listerine, which was an antiseptic. It was used for surgical use. Now, here's the killer, or the helper, I guess. The active ingredients are 4 essential oil constituents.
Oh, let me guess. Tea tree.
No, not the actual oils, just what the oils are made up of. So you have menthol,
Lemon.
cineol, thymol, and methyl salicylate.
You know which one is going away?
What?
The mall.
The mall.
The economy's killing it. J.C. Penney's are leaving. Sears are leaving. It's just really bad. I mean, there was just an article the other day that wasn't really much because Amazon's really just putting a hurting on it. Nobody's really. I mean, I delivered 2 boxes of toilet paper just this weekend. I mean, you're not getting. Malls ain't making it.
Okay, so both thyme oil and eucalyptus oil were used as antiseptics by doctors in the 1880s.
What time?
They also used thyme oil.
What time?
Like
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
that time right there, butt kicking time. And the antimicrobial power of essential oils, that would be the antibacterial and antifungal power of essential oils. They've been studying it since the 1880s. And there was a guy named Charles Chamberlain who worked with Pasteur. He noted that cinnamon
Are
bark
you related to Will?
oil, no, cinnamon bark oil, oregano oil, and geranium oil were all actively fighting against Bacillus anthracis.
They sound like some Greek gods right there. Tu Brute.
Many oils, essential oils, are very potent, antibacterial, have antibacterial properties. Potent, not potent. And this is something that I find interesting. You know what? Look it up. I thought so, but I wasn't sure. What is Bacillus anthracis? That's not anthrax, is it? I don't know. I didn't look it up because
They just told me
it's
to stand in the
still.
line and get the shot. Oh, what the hell it was for?
I didn't Google it. I should have Googled it, but I didn't Google it.
Lily said, "Are you allergic to chicken bones and eggshells?" And I'm like, "Well, what the crap? Who eats chicken bones and eggshells?" Shut up and get in line, Rhea. Who could? Yep, anthrax.
Anthrax sure is.
Oh, just learned
Yep.
that something.
It is a root word. That's exactly. It's anthrax. So that's huge right there, right? So you've got. Let me say this again. Back in 1887,
Back in the
cinnamon
Middle House days.
cinnamon bark, oregano,
Oregano.
and geranium. Okay?
Why are you scared to say what's next?
Because I don't know what's coming out of your mouth. Now, one thing that I think is interesting, we've started to see, not necessarily essential oils, but the use of herbs, which a lot of these essential oils do come from.
I got one herb I'm waiting for the state of Georgia to legalize. And all of a sudden I'm out cataracts.
So, we've seen big chicken companies, namely Tyson, who are now advertising that they use
Hey, don't me spreading Tyson's name
oregano.
out like that so much. Man, did you see what he did to Holyfield here?
They use oregano as a natural antibiotic to be able to keep the chickens healthy, supposedly. This is what they say. Another thing is they're starting to use it in packaging. Remember I was telling you about bergamot? That I read that in the FDA somewhere, bergamot is being used to help clean food as well. So they're now starting to see food packaging is starting to be used. As of like 2013, they were starting to use essential oils in food packaging as well. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a mole, it was a skin tag.
So essential oils can also effectively inhibit MRSA, which is, and I'm not even going to try and
Now, what do you mean by inhibit MRSA?
The
if
growth.
If we were playing Mercy,
not MRSA, which is
What-
methicillin-resistant staphylococcus.
so is that like a
it's
performance
a-
enhancer that
It's
you would
a
take
type
to
of
play
staph.
Mercy?
It's a special type of staph
I mean, is
infection.
that
And
illegal?
then also
Why you ignoring me? This is a serious question. There could be
vancomycin-resistant
professional Mercy players
enterococcus.
that are abusing the system by this performance enhancer, and you're just letting it go. Are you on the payroll?
Yes, I am. Okay, so there's some essential oils that have effectively inhibited both MRSA and VRE.
VRE.
And those are, yes, which is vancomycin resistant enterococcus.
Oh, in my world, that's veterans ready to eat.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So those are tea tree, which is also melaleuca,
Is she giving you the finger?
thyme oil, peppermint oil, lemongrass, and geranium. So those are some oils that can be used for that. Now, the other thing that I thought was very interesting is that pathogenic bacteria are not only not becoming resistant to them, but they're also causing, very cool, a reverse resistance in bacteria, essentially turning it off. And what happens is it inhibits the bacterial communication back and forth. So it means that the bacteria can't become aggressive and continue to fight or to take over your system. So that's studies that are now being done on the complexity of essential oils. Also, that, remember I talked about some of them perform apoptosis, meaning that, like we talked about how they're like a sniper, where they'll signal in on what bacteria they're trying to fight, and they go straight for those cells and kill only the bad cells, not all the cells. So that's something
You're
that's
getting really
being
close to that hand gesture there. I'm just saying.
so that's something that's
I'm like
being
feeling the
studied
wind.
as a potential for later down the road. So the thing is that there's some belief that not only can it prevent antibiotic resistance, but it can also reverse antibiotic resistance. And one of those oils is grapefruit oil and eugenol, which is the main constituent in clove oil. So both of those are good oils.
Okay, take a hold up for a second. A lot of people having to leave and having to go. I want to let Carol come in real quick and show her what she's working on real quick. So, come on over here, Carol. Get over here quickly. Do the transition. Man. Okay. Tell everybody what you got right there, Carol.
A dream catcher.
It is so in the
Really?
family. Yes.
Just gonna.
Trying to put it behind it so that they can see the detail work behind, because you got the wood there.
Yeah.
Here.
Now, she made these with stuff that came from our
Yeah.
farm. That is our grapevine. We had to purchase the beads
Obviously the beads and the tags.
and
So
stuff.
that's. There you
But
go.
we are going to be offering these handmade dream catchers for sale. She's going to put feathers in them, feathers that came from our chickens
That's really
or
pretty. And
or-
this one's neat. It's got little tags on the bottom. It says dream, imagine, and love on this one.
Well, you gotta kind of have dream.
Yeah. Dream in there, yeah. So that's
And,
very cool.
So these are going to be going up on our
We'll put them on our website.
website for sale. If you want one that is like specific to you, like
We saw a lot of different charms with different things on them. Like there
Like
were,
You're a sewer. They've got some sewing charms on the
Mhm.
bottom.
yeah, they've
You got
got
turtles.
turtles and
kitties.
yeah, they had dog paw prints. They had dragonflies, butterflies, all different types of things. So she can make it tailored to a specific person if you want that as well. They had
So-
sunflowers, a whole bunch of other stuff. So anyway,
What?
Somebody's been eating the berries.
okay.
Okay.
No, they're not. There's still the bowls in there.
Yeah, but I don't even have a power now. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
So be looking for that on our website. Well, for the price, and if you want one specific to you, let us know, and she can make it specific to you. Now that one will probably cost a little bit more because of having to get the
Specific beads or
specific
whatever.
beads and stuff like that. We're also looking into be able to get instead of using the wooden beads, for her to be able to use some of those crystals.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. And during traffic season, when traffic season comes around, she may be using some beaver teeth or putting some fur and stuff like that in it. So
Yeah.
be looking, but the circle is made from our grapevines. So that's really cool that she was able to design that and come up with it.
Pretty neat.
And
Yep.
it's a generic size. See?
Yep.
They're bigger than
There you go.
Yep.
Because they look wrong.
How long did it take you, Carol? I'm pretty much done, so we're
30. 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah. So,
Bone beads are nice on them. Yep.
yeah. And we may,
Well, we've got hog's teeth that we can use, beaver teeth, male coon penis bone,
oh my god.
the vertebrae
want
and
that?
bones
Right.
from our different animals that we
Animals.
harvest,
Mhm.
antlers,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
So, anyway, they're very cool. I
Why
like
would
them.
you
I think
use a
they're cool.
pastry dish for Pisces kid? Get it? Very cool.
Oh, definitely. We'll put her on the prayer list. Mark's sister went in for heart troubles.
definitely.
So,
Everybody take a second, say a quick prayer for Mark's sister, and send some positive vibes. Talk to the man upstairs. If that's your thing, if that's not your thing, then please send some positive vibes and stuff towards the sister. Okay, thank you, Carol.
I thought I was in line.
Bye-bye now. You guys get in there and clean up the kitchen.
What's for dinner?
So anyway, all that to say, Courtney, you've got a ton of oils that are now being used to fight off bacteria and infections because they're preventing, not only preventing, they're not only preventing antibiotic resistance, but they're also helping. There's studies that are starting to imply that it's possible to reverse antibiotic resistance as well. So that's pretty cool.
What do you think it was?
What?
That reached in there was eating dewberries.
Oh, Dessa.
No.
Who?
Dessa's set on trying to get that 25 pounds.
25 pounds.
So to be able to make the line.
I thought we only needed 4.
Okay, 4 pounds, whatever it was.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I think it was the
You
blaze.
think it was the blaze? Probably. So, anyway, so that was my spiel. I just thought it was really, and I want to check out that, I want to check out the documentary, see if we can find it, because I think it would be interesting to see how that's all presented. It may just be that all the stuff that we talked about tonight is what's in there, but you know, we've been pretty well schooled on antibiotic resistance for a while because we've been studying the stuff that goes into the food supply.
Well, one of the things that we also had was when I worked in dialysis, and we had a class on that kind of stuff. And basically, they always used ants. You got red ants and you got blue ants.
Right.
Okay? And I'm walking around, my hands are covered in red ants, and then I walk over to the patient who's covered in blue ants. The ants now mixed together, we got purple ants.
I got drugs to fight the red ants, and I got drugs to fight the blue ants,
But I
but I
don't
don't have a drug to fight the purple ones.
So you got to make sure you wash your hands.
Yeah.
So that way, when you wash your hands with warm soap water, and what they had us do was say the alphabet like 3 times.
Yeah.
And you had to constantly be doing. You
Yeah.
had to make sure you get down
In
in here
between.
too. And
Because
so
this
you
is
back-
where you miss it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You get in here and then you do this number a couple of times down in here and
Yeah.
get down in there and you're washing it and you're just saying the alphabet and you're getting in there really, really good with it. And
And I think I've told this story
rinse, lather, and
before.
repeat.
When Blaze was very young, I was on WIC with him, and they required us to go to some classes while we were on WIC, and one of them was a food class, it's just a nutrition class. But for some reason, during that nutrition class, they also wanted to talk to us about proper washing of hands. That was one of the things they wanted to talk to us about. And they gave me soap, and at the time it was an antibacterial soap, and they said go ahead and wash your hands as long as you want. No time limit. You want to scrub them for 10 minutes, go ahead, scrub them as long as you want. Okay, so I did. I rinsed and I got in between and up underneath, and I washed my hands, it did everything, and it was at least 3 or 4 alphabets long, just scrubbing. Because I knew I'd been changing diapers and all that stuff, so I knew I had stuff on my hands. Well, she then proceeded to take a black light and go over my hands. And even though I had been very careful and focused, knew that I was getting tested on it, and spent extra time doing it, I still had these areas in here,
Still had the red ants.
and right in the knuckles were the big deal. And
That's why surgeons and doctors, they got the scrub brush. That
Yeah,
they have to open
to-
up the brand new one,
mhm.
and they're scrubbing and they're hitting these knuckles and they're hitting down in here.
Yep. So definitely, it's a definite issue, and using all that stuff. So yeah, when you scrub away, it'll bring out deeper contaminants. That's true. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's true too. So
And that's why you got to do it so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
But
So anyway.
the main thing to take away from it is you're never going to get rid of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your own, that's why the man upstairs gave us an immune system. So that way our body can naturally fight these things. And it all starts in the gut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not overusing. There are some medications that they're very effective, but when they're overused or used improperly, can be a problem. And it's the same thing with essential oils. We don't use the same one over and over and over and over again.
Nope.
You got to keep the body guessing.
I
And
keep
so-
my body guessing all the time. I go from Jameson to Crown, little bit of wine.
You slum every once in a while with some cat. You go slumming
I go slumming.
every once in a while.
I go hogging.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to get my redneck on, I might do some jack or wild turkey.
Ooh.
But
Mm.
so
That's only when we go to a bar and you don't want to pay for the Crown.
But one of the best things to do is to get a gallon of jack, stick it underneath the sink, and let it sit there for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And let that baby ferment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm switching it up. Mead, muscadine wine, muscat whiskey,
Shine wine.
moonshine.
Yeah.
Keep my body guessing. Keep them bugs guessing. What in the world is he thinking now?
Yep. So that's what you take away from this, is that overuse of any one thing will cause a resistance, bacteria resistance.
It's just like bodybuilders. They don't go into the gym
and do the same
and do bench presses every day.
every day. Yeah.
They will go into the gym and they may do a flat bench,
Good night.
one workout. They may
Suburban.
do the incline bench and then a decline bench. But then the next week when it comes around for them to work on their chest,
They don't do the same.
they don't do
ones.
benches. They go
Yeah.
to flies. They do the dumbbell flies.
Right.
And then the week after that, they may do something. They just may do the hammer strength machine. And then the Nautilus machines to keep those muscles guessing.
Right.
That's the best thing for you to do, is to not always take the same thing and do the same thing repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's against everything that we know as humans. We all take the same way to work.
If it ain't broke, don't fix
And
it.
we all go, I got a headache, I gotta insert your favorite aspirin.
Mm-hmm. Advil, ibuprofen.
I done caught the latest bug, common cold. Well, Meemaw always made hot toddies, so I get hot toddies, I get 9,000 blankets put on the bed, and I go to sleep. I wake up and I'm better. You gotta mix it up, because that's how these bugs and these infections and stuff are able to survive, because they go, uh-oh, Fat Boy's gonna hit us with the jack. Alright, put on our jack shield, and then he's gonna try to sweat us out. Okay, everybody anchor down to something. And then it didn't work, then it doesn't work. But if you keep them guessing, well, his body's sending out his patrol, his bug killers, and they knock it out before it even really gets started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, it's almost 9 o'clock on a Sunday, so I'm gonna let everybody.
I probably will be doing a little bit of insomnia tonight. We will probably come on at about, I don't know, maybe 10 o'clock, go from 10 to 11, hang out with you guys for a little bit. I've got to get up in the morning early, and I got to cut hay, and because we're going to start making our own hay now, because we have the square baler built. We're going to put it to use before we make a video on it, so that way we make sure it works and we can fix any kinks that may come up, so that way you guys don't have to struggle with it. And then we got a couple of cool videos that we're going to try to get out this week. You got the dairy cow versus the beef cow. You've got raised beds. We're going to try to slip a predator control on the homestead out this week. But we got a fun video coming out this week that I think you guys will enjoy. If you guys enjoy it, then we will continue on doing that. And that's all I'm going to say. And next Saturday's live stream, you don't want to miss it. We're already working on things. We're going to work on things to improve the audio with some mics, but we've also got a special surprise.
Derry, are they the same as the Jersey Shore? That's funny. Alright, well, y'all have a really good evening, and we will see ya.
See you
soon.
See you next
Excuse
time.
me. Good night, y'all.
Good night.